I see the freezer as this beautiful treasure trove where you make a bolognese, just make a double batch and put 2 in the freezer.
Welcome to another episode of Dirty Linen's Summer Series. I am really enjoying these conversations with fab food people who are going to share with us a story about a time that they realised food was really important to them. Our guest today is Justine Schofield. She is a massive favourite of many Australian cooks. I've certainly loved all my interactions with her, including coming on her show. Absolutely love it. Justine has recently had a baby, and as any parent could tell you, having kids really changes the way that food fits into your household and your life. So we're going to touch on that. Justine, welcome to Dirty Linen.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So good to have you on the show. What does summer mean to you?
Oh my gosh, summer means tomatoes in a nutshell for me. I wait for that moment where those beautiful plump tomatoes that actually smell like tomatoes go straight into my fruit bowl. And of course, mozzarella and basil. I just can't wait for that. And for me, that's like having it for a quick lunch or my breakfast. And it really is about that. I mean, no surprise, summer equals a food related comment, but it just, for me, just evokes so many great memories, not only in Australia, I mean, we've got good tomatoes here, but I remember just travelling to Europe and visiting my uncle in France and him growing his own tomatoes and just being outside and picking them and then just either stuffing them or eating them just as is in a salad. It's just, for me, it just epitomises summer.
Absolutely. And that smell, if you brush against a tomato plant, that smell of the leaves that stays on your hands I just find that to me is so resonant of summer.
Yeah, absolutely. I can smell it now.
Yeah, I can smell it as well. So, Justine, let's jump straight into the nub of this conversation, which is you sharing a moment when you realised food was really crucial, important, embedded, a life-changing force in your life. Have you got a food tale up your sleeve for us?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few, but just to give you one, I actually remember being, I probably was just in year 7, so 12, 13 years old. I've always loved food and but growing up in a French family, food was always the centre of our world. But I remember coming back from a school camp and being slightly homesick and coming home, and it was winter, and Mum had a pot au feu on the stovetop. Now, a pot au feu, for those who don't know, it's the French version of, a big boil up. So it's chicken, there's beef in there, there's bone marrow, and you start off with a soup. You form obviously this stock, this beautiful broth that forms into a soup, and then you eat the meat with mustard and pickles and all the vegetables that go into it. It is old school French to a T, but I remember opening the door, coming home, and Mum had one of those, one of her extremely large pot, which is actually my grandmother's, on the stovetop, and that smell just smelt like home. It smelled like my grandmother's home. It smelled like Mum's home, and it's one of those things I'm just like, oh, that is just, for me, the best thing ever, and just the emotional connection that you get with food and family from just a simple thing. It's pretty much water, secondary cuts of meat and vegetables. In its purest form, for me, was just a food memory that I was like, okay, yeah, I love food, and it's not only love, but it also is comfort to the absolute max. And I was really just, for me, it was just, okay, well, I love that and I want to share that with the world.
Oh, that is really glorious. What a beautiful memory. I can really imagine that sense of homecoming and welcome and, belonging. That's really, such a beautiful story to share. Thanks, Justine. You actually, that evoked a couple of memories for me about eating on school camp, and they are not pleasant. One of them was, I think it was also in year 7, but there was, we were eating whatever the kitchen dished up. And it wasn't that the food was bad, it was what happened to it along the way. So we was eating at a long table, and at the end of each table there was a slops bucket. So we were required at the end of the meal. This is actually a really gross story, so apologies. Skip forward if anyone doesn't want to be grossed out. But so we had to scrape our leftovers into this tub at the end of the table. But there was a boy who ate the food out of that. He just wanted more. God. And so he ate the slops. I don't know if it was kind of a dare.
Must have been. There's no way. Oh, my
there's
goodness.
no way. So I recall that. And I also remember this sort of real like outdoor adventure camp where we were out camping, had to carry our own food for a few days, and we only had powdered milk, and I just couldn't deal with it. So kids were mixing up the powdered milk and having it on Wheat Bix, and I just couldn't. So I put strawberry jam on my Wheat Bix, and everybody laughed at me.
Well, they'd laughed at you then. They probably do it now because that's actually a great idea to give it some form of flavour.
Yeah, well, I just remember, like, you know how long you have to chew a dry Wheat Bix for to get it down. So, yeah, it was actually highly traumatising. And if only there'd been a pot of fur at the end of my school camp, I think perhaps it would have erased those bad memories and left me with some good ones.
At camp, it's traumatising. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, well, let's leave camp there.
Yeah.
Justine, tell us about, you know, being a mum and how that's changed your household's food.
Yeah, significantly. Louie's now almost 2.5, and you know, having a TV show for 15 years, it's one of those things where you're always wanting to teach people how to how to cook more conveniently, how to batch cook, how to be versatile. But when you do become a mum, you actually realise the importance of being organised in the kitchen, having backup food all the time, fresh food all the time, having balance, having versatility, and how important it is to just nourish your child as much as possible. For me, obviously, I have a love affair of food, and exposing Louis to as many flavours as possible in a good way is almost like my mission now, right? But at the same time, because I have a very hectic schedule, particularly between March and July, where I am on the go and flying in and out of many places. I need it to be organised, and I need to be organised in particular, and I also need to have that on the go, ready to go. And that's where I guess the idea of the freezer concept for my new book came out.
Yeah, so you've got a book coming out called Cook Ahead, Freezer-Friendly Recipes for Every Budget. And when I looked at the front cover and saw all your neat containers, the lasagna ready to go in the freezer, I thought, I aspire to be that organised. Were you always a freezer person?
Yeah, definitely. I always found that the freezer is the unsung hero, the appliance in the kitchen that we all look at and we just throw things in and I'll get the ice cream, okay, or the frozen peas, but don't actually see it as this beautiful thing where it can be so convenient for those times for the mums and dads that are wanting a quick meal, or just those little things that I find it. I think a lot of people batch cook, for example, and let's do a whole Sunday cook. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not using all my Sunday to cook 6 different dishes. I see the freezer as this beautiful treasure trove where you make a bolognese, just make a double batch and put 2 in the freezer. So it's not making an effort. You're going to cook that bolognese anyway, right? So why not throw a couple more carrots and another 500 grams of mince? And that time down the track when you've got something on and you need a quick dinner, you have a nutritious meal in the freezer that can be defrosted the night before, ready to go. It's your own food. You know what you've put into it. You know it's going to be tasty, and you need to boil pasta, so it takes 8 minutes to prepare. For me, as a mum, that is crucial, and I use the freezer almost not every day, but a lot. Every second day, I would say, if not every day, because there is something in there that I can grab. And it's snacks. I mean, I've got a whole snacks and treats section, because I think that's where we get stuck. Because personally, you see what's on the market and you actually turn the pack over and see how many nasties are in there. I don't like that. I want to make sure I can cook and have things on standby for Louis to feed him properly.
So what are some snacks that, might surprise people?
For example, pancakes. Louis loves pancakes. People see it as a treat on a Sunday. Make some nice pancakes, cook them up on the Sunday, right? Have a few, double batch it if you like. Make the rest of the pancakes, store them in the freezer. We're talking about jam earlier from good old school camp. Uh, a little bit of jam on a warmed up pancake that you've made, not a pie from the shop that has extra additives that you don't need. Warming it up, that's an afternoon tea there that you've made yourself and you were making anyway because Sunday you made your pancake batter. Crackers, so easy to make. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how easy crackers are to make. And then all the muffins. So think of all those beautiful muffins that you cook. They freeze really well and defrost so nicely. And it's only because I know this, because my friends who are pastry chefs, they freeze so many of their cakes and then defrost them for the best texture. And you actually get that with muffins too. So having those there, you'll also find in the book, I've got a whole smoothie pack section because I don't know if it's just me, but I've always got a rotting banana or over-ripened strawberries, a little bit of spinach left over that no one's eaten. If you form those little packs in Ziploc bags, having them in the freezer, all you need to do, instead of getting everything out, chopping it all up, just all you have to do is pop that Snaplock bag, the contents in there, into a mixer, a blender, a bit of milk, yogurt, and you've got a beautiful, healthy smoothie there for breakfast. Or I actually have a smoothie in the afternoon when I just need a little pick-me-up or a little something before dinner.
Oh my goodness, this is so smart and potentially life-changing. The chapter that really surprised me was sauces and marinades. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was actually originally not supposed to be a whole chapter, but then I got really into it because it starts with a cake. Everyone needs a master bolognese that we turn to time and time again, weekly. But then I got really excited about things that I didn't even think that could be convenient for others that I find convenient. So like compound butters that I use to just flavour a simple piece of fish, just chopping off a bit of that flavoured butter that has, shallots in it and capers and lots of herbs, making a butter. So just getting some softened butter and mixing through these ingredients, even just as simple as curry powder or a curry paste. And then if you want to use some for a dish that night, great. Then the rest you just freeze into a little cylinder in some baking paper and having that on standby for a barbecued lamb chop or barbecued beef, and bringing that out and letting it melt as the meat comes off the grill is just delightful. Talking about those butters, good old garlic bread butter, having that is so versatile, not just for garlic bread, but just it can go on anything, a knob of that into some mussels, fantastic, on some salmon. There are so many things that you can do with the compound butters. And then I started to get really excited about marinating things too. So not just having marinades to be frozen as is, but getting salmon and putting honey and mustard on it, having that in the freezer. And I can just go to the shops and just quickly do that. Of course you can, absolutely. I'm not saying do that, but having that up your sleeve on a night where you haven't had time to go to the shops or you just can't be bothered, defrosting fish, and we know fish defrost very quickly, having a honey soy or honey mustard salmon, I should say, is a really great option to have for a midweek dinner. Steam some rice, some veggies. Even if you don't have veggies in the house, just grab your peas from the freezer. That's a delicious dinner in itself.
Oh, I love it. And I just think those little flavour hacks like the flavoured butter just elevate a meal so simply, make you feel like you're really cooking when perhaps all you've done is heat something up. And yeah, so clever. Justine, thinking about summer, we've talked about tomatoes. Is there something else, like, I don't know if it's a salad or a cool soup or a drink that you can leave us with to send us on our merry way in sunny times?
Oh, I can only think of what I had last night because it was just a delight. Stuffed tomatoes. Every culture has their version of stuffed tomatoes, but having, the French side of me does them in a specific way, and I can only eat Look, I love all stuffed tomatoes, but for me, my mum's stuffed tomatoes are just something that I just go for straight away as soon as we hit December. And it's pretty much just taking all the flesh out, popping it into a pot, and that makes a sauce. And then stuffing the tomatoes with a mixture of pork and beef, lots of garlic, parsley, French shallot, salt, pepper, and an egg. And that's it. Stuffing them, roasting them in the oven, serving them on a bed of rice with the tomato that you've made out of the tomato flesh is summer on a plate for me. It just evokes so many memories as a child, and everyone loves it. It's a crowd pleaser. Having that outside with a glass of white wine, maybe a Chardonnay, heaven.
Oh, I'm all over that. Thank you for sharing. Justine, always such a pleasure to connect with you. Good luck with the book. I reckon it's a winner. And thank you for sharing your summer tale with us today. Really good to chat.
Lovely chatting to you, Dani. Speak to you later.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This